What's up guys, I'm back, and today not only do we have, the good old 2020 MacBook Pro 13-inch, but we also have a 13-inch MacBook Air here to review, compare, contrast, put a little versus going, seeing out of these two, which MacBook you should buy. Now this one over here, this MacBook, this is mine, so I've had this for about a month, so this is about a 1 month later review. However, this MacBook Air is not mine. This is my sister's. This is a very last minute video because she just came up to the lake house and said,
"Yo, I just got this new MacBook Air."
And I'm like,
"Are you kidding me? Why didn't you let me unbox it for a video?"
So instead, we're doing a little versus between the two Macs, and we're gonna see which one holds up and which one you should buy. Now, this is not gonna be a spec heavy video because there's tons of people that do specs and do performance tests of these Macs. This is gonna kind of be like a, how would these hold up under my workflow? And my workflow is a little bit of typing, a little bit of like watching videos, a lot of watching videos, a lot of video editing, and a lot of photo editing. So that's my standard workflow. I use Final Cut Pro, use Adobe Lightroom to edit photos, and occasionally I'll edit some 4K footage. I'm mostly editing in 1080p though, so that's gonna be my standard workflow. And this MacBook Pro has held up really well in everything that I needed it to. And my 1 month later is I'm super happy. The only downside I've seen with this Mac here is definitely the overheating. It overheats a lot. One of the comments that I got on my last video where I unboxed this and reviewed it, someone asked, how hot is it getting? Mine's getting 60 and 70 without doing a lot. Is that normal? I think that's Fahrenheit or Celsius. And I think, yeah, it definitely overheats, but not unless you're doing like a lot of processing things. Like if you're not doing video editing and have a bunch of Google Chrome tabs open at the same time, it's not really gonna overheat as bad. But I just recommended this person just puts it on a desk instead of sitting it on their lap. I definitely found that helps for me. If I'm just using it on my lap versus putting it on a desk, there's definitely better airflow when it's on a desk, and it won't overheat as much. So that's just a little tip. Our first category is gonna be the typing overall experience, because I know a lot of people, students, teachers, journalists, book writers, whatever you call them, would be looking at something like this for the purpose of typing. So between the two, you're gonna get a Magic Keyboard on both of them, and that's the main reason why you would get a MacBook, whether the Pro or the Air in 2020, is because of the updated Magic Keyboard on both of them. So you're gonna get that across both. However, I'm gonna give the point to the MacBook Air in terms of the typing experience, simply because of the signature wedge design. It makes it easier to type. Your wrist isn't gonna get a little crease on the side from typing for long periods of time, and it's just it's a smoother experience on the Air versus this little ridge on the Mac is gonna put some strain on your wrist, and it's hard to kind of rest comfortably as you're typing. So in terms of typing, I give the point to the Air. Now, overall look, I'm gonna say it's a draw because obviously they're the same size, same shape. It's really just preference if you like a little boxier, heavier feel, or you like the wedge design. This one's the normal silver, the classic silver, and mine's the space gray. I don't know why my sister went with the classic silver. One of the big things I said in my last video was,
"Don't get the silver, get the space gray, because space gray looks so cool and futuristic."
However, she completely ignored me and got the silver. Also, I think this is available in either gold or like rose gold, something like that. But space gray is what I chose. So overall look, they're gonna be the exact same, especially on both base models. You're gonna get 2 Thunderbolt ports on the side, and you're gonna get 1 headphone jack on the other side, and that's consistent across both. Now let's talk price. For the base model MacBook Air, you're gonna come right in around $1,000, so $999. Without any discounts or anything. Obviously, like we talked about in the last one, you could get the education discount, which is gonna knock off about $100. So for the standard price, this is gonna be $999, and the MacBook Pro is going to be $1299. So the MacBook Air gets another point in the category of price. If budget is your main concern and you don't wanna spend an extra $300, then MacBook Air is gonna be your go-to. All right, next up is gonna be speaker quality. So we're gonna test the two Macs out to see which one is better in their speaker quality, the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air. From what I've heard, the MacBook Pro is a little more bassier and the MacBook Air is a little tinnier, but I actually haven't heard them side by side. So put on a pair of your best headphones and let me know in the comments which one sounds better. The MacBook Air is definitely louder, but the sound quality is nowhere near as good as the MacBook Pro. So the MacBook Air definitely sounded worse, nowhere near as bad as the speakers on these things used to be. However, the MacBook Pro sounded way better. It was a little quieter, but that's because the sound actual quality was better, the bass was better. So between these two, speaker quality, I think it goes to the MacBook Pro. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments if you think that the Air sounds better. But I think we can all agree the MacBook Pro sounded way cleaner and better in the audio test. So far 1 point MacBook Pro, 2 points MacBook Air. Next up, we're gonna test the internal camera and microphone on both of these MacBooks. They're both operating with a 720p webcam and whatever the standard internal mic is for the Macs. So first up is gonna be the MacBook Air. Let's see how this webcam and microphone hold up. So this is a test of the microphone and video quality on the MacBook Air. I don't think it's gonna be that good. It's the 720p camera and the microphone's probably gonna sound tinny, similar to the speakerphone, but you tell me how this looks. And now this is a test of the camera and microphone on the MacBook Pro. I don't think it's gonna be significantly better, if better at all, because they're both using 720p cameras. The one thing I will say, it looks like there's less noise on this one, but that could just be the resolutions of the screens that I'm looking at. I think we already know that these cameras and microphones aren't gonna be that good. But is one of them better? I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me. And again, I'm a little disappointed in Apple for putting 720p cameras in their MacBooks, especially their 2020 models, because literally their iPhones are shooting 4K now. All right, the final test I wanna do is testing exporting a 4K clip on both these Macs, and we're gonna do this in iMovie because my sister obviously doesn't have Final Cut Pro on her MacBook Air. So we're gonna use iMovie because it's standard across all MacBooks, and I know a lot of people don't have Final Cut Pro. So we're gonna see how long it takes to export a 30-second 4K clip. It's the exact same 4K clip across both of them. We're doing this in ProRes, better quality, so the highest possible settings in iMovie. And we're gonna see how long this takes to export. All right, and we're gonna put a timer up of how long it takes to export a 1.78 gigabyte file on this MacBook Air. Go. All right. Okay, so the MacBook Air took exactly 48 seconds to export that 4K file. It was 1.78 gigabytes, so a very small file, and it took 48 seconds. All right, and now let's see exactly how long it takes the MacBook Pro to export that same 4K file. Ready, and go. All right, and this one took 34 seconds. That's about 25% faster. The only thing I'm seeing though, the fans already kicked on the MacBook Pro. I don't know if you can hear that, but just exporting this 4K clip, the fans turned on, whereas the MacBook Air did it completely silently. So there is, I guess, a Pro, the MacBook Air. It's gonna be quieter, but it'll take a little longer. MacBook Pro, faster, but louder, and it's still heating up. Wow. This is a perfect example. Just on this small thing, it heats up, but it does so that it can do a task faster. So again, the MacBook Air took 49 seconds to export that 4K clip, and the MacBook Pro took 35 seconds. The last thing I would like to test is the screen quality, just in terms of photo and video editing, so color accuracy, color science, and I heard the MacBook Pro can actually see 25% more colors than the MacBook Air, which again goes towards that color accuracy aspect of it. So I pulled up two of the exact same photos, both on max brightness, and the MacBook Pro I think is a little bit brighter, and I like the colors better on the MacBook Pro. You might not even see a difference, and if you can't, then that doesn't really affect you. But for me, I think the MacBook Pro screen is just better and brighter. And I'm definitely seeing a difference in the shadows. The shadows, there's definitely like a higher dynamic range in the shadows of the MacBook Pro, whereas this one's kind of just like gray across the board. All right, so in terms of screen resolution, the MacBook Pro definitely gets a point there. However, for some people, that category just doesn't even matter, doesn't apply. So for me, and for my workflow, MacBook Pro wins, especially with video and photo editing. The MacBook Pro is my winner. However, some people, if you don't care about some of those categories, knock them off the board, and then this MacBook Air is your winner. If you like better aerodynamic shape for typing, if you like a quieter machine that's not gonna overheat all the time, then go with the MacBook Air. However, as we saw, processing power is definitely better on the MacBook Pro. If you're a student, teacher, MacBook Air. If you're a YouTuber, editor, photo editor, go with the MacBook Pro. So I hope this helps you decide, and this comparison kind of seals the deal on which one you should get. And guys, if you haven't watched my full review where I unbox this MacBook Pro 2020 and talk about the specs and everything, click this video right here, because I think it's one of my best videos that I've done. I'm just gonna say it, so click that video if you actually want to see a full unboxing and spec heavy review of this Mac. If you like this video, subscribe, it helps out a ton. Like this video, share it, I guess, if you feel like sharing something like this, and turn on notifications because I'm super irregular when I post. So turning on notifications will mean that you never miss an upload. So do that, and I will see you guys whenever in the next one. Peace.